everyone, it's Dawn. I'm here to share a couple of things with you, maybe 2 videos, because it feels like, man, I'll just say this, the messages are coming through very fast, and I cannot keep up. And at the same time, I have very challenging, circumstances in terms of, where to make a video and when I can make a video. It's been rather challenging circumstances in 2020, I know, for everyone. And so I've been, I gotta say up front here, when I moved out of my place, was it April? Yes, it was 1st of April 2019. Is that right? I don't know. Yeah, it's been like 18 months. I literally, you guys, okay, so I had plans for the summer, which I had a lovely, amazing summer last summer, but I was 100% certain that I was gonna land somewhere in about September of 2019, and that did not happen. And so I keep getting the message on a personal note that this is all intentional, and I'm like, please. But now, and I have been some amazing places, and thank goodness I'm able to travel a little bit here and there, so I'm not always in this corner with the noisy AC units next to me, and on the other hand, like, the places that I'm led to, are intentional. I know Spirit always provides, and there's always blessings everywhere. But I just got the huge heads up of where I'm headed, one of the places that I'm headed next, and I'm like, oh wow, can we maybe shift these timelines before I have to do that? Because yeah, okay, enough of the personal. Thanks for indulging me for a moment. Okay, so like I said, messages have been coming like super fast, super lots of downloads, and I almost can't keep up, and they're different kinds of information too. So my last video that I shared, or the most recent, was the passages from Isaiah and Psalm, and the song lyric from Amy Grant, and the one before that was also about a song lyric from John Denver. So and these are really meaningful and really impactful, and very clear when things come through. That, I think anybody who follows me or knows that, like, when I'm given something to share from even if I don't fully understand all of the ramifications or all of the meaning, or why this now and why it fits together, I do it. And particularly when it's hard to describe, but there are certain times when there's this one group of, higher beings that, it's like now, must do now. And so sometimes when I share, particularly the scripture passages, I'm just, I literally, my higher self, I suppose, in that team, are like, do. It comes through in like 2 minutes or less, like, read Isaiah chapter 13, Isaiah this, and Psalm this. And then sometimes in the moment, of course, I will adapt and add things. So that is one stream of what's been coming through. And then there's been this whole other stream, which is frankly, like, surprising me a bit. I don't think I've said much about it yet, but I'm about to. And it circles way back to some of the videos I was sharing initially when I began this channel, which formerly was called Twin Hearts Ablaze, and this was back in 2016 and 17. In terms of a lot of what I was seeing, that's been coming back. Never thought I'd say that, but it has, so I'll share it in just a moment. And then the third kind of information or stream that I've been really getting, I haven't really shared much of, because it's once again along that sort of scientific kind of, and I'm like, I'm like the last person in the world that should be given this kind of information, but I am going to share that here. Actually, because of the noise, and it's getting colder now in the evenings, and just the frustrations and the challenges in terms of a place to record these, I'm going to actually go ahead and make this one video. So I'll put timestamps below. 4:44. Okay, good place to begin. Thanks for letting me ramble for a minute. So let's do the science stuff first, huh? So I have been getting very clear and strong information to share that has to do with this move that we're making into this new society, new era, new earth, whatever you want to label that. And this, more and more, I've been seeing how we're in a rapid stream forward, and we're moving at an accelerated pace. Even though it seems like, if I'm looking at it from my perspective, it's like, come on, are we still playing this circus game, like, and there's no breakthrough? Like, is nobody actually ever going to acknowledge what's actually happening, and in terms of the larger collective picture? So that's just me. But what I've been getting very strongly from Spirit in the last 3 days or so, it's October 5th, in the afternoon when I'm recording this, and I was going to speak to it in the last video, but it didn't seem at all connected, but everything is always, to some degree connected. And so this it's a combination of ideas that have to do with the accelerated pace, and specifically looking at that in terms of, if you look at it in terms of scientific breakthroughs in the last century, and particularly in terms of flight. This is where I need to get my son on the phone. He's an aerospace engineer, and say, hey, explain jet propulsion to me. Explain supersonic flight to me. And I'm sure he would, but I, for the sake of this video, I'm just going to attempt to do this myself. So we've had all of these breakthroughs in terms of speed of travel. And so Spirit kept bringing me back to this quick painting I did about, I don't know, 2 years ago, I think. And it's of this figure, sort of like becoming like rocket-like, moving through space. And I'm kind of fond of it, but it was very different from my kind of paintings when I painted it. And yet they kept bringing it back to my awareness. And they gave me a couple of phrases around supersonic flight and around sudden sight. And the way they were showing it to me was kind of funny, because I've always felt as if, I'm flying blind, and that's been a frustration in my life. Like, I'm always flying blind. I don't have any support. I don't have any fuel. I don't have any whatever it is. These are the stories I tell myself, right? Like the limited funds, or the limited friends, or the limited no home. I can't seem to. It's been unbelievable, but obviously intentional in terms of my own journey. A couple days before I left for New Orleans, I finally was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna need to just do what I have to do so that I can have a place to live, and not, because it's gonna get cold here, and I don't want to sleep in my car, and still I'm just not sure what to do. So I'm like, okay, so I applied for 3 jobs. I applied for 2 grocery stores and a driver's position. And immediately, within less than 24 hours, now granted, know this, I have been actually applying for professional positions for 20 years, but, seriously for the last year or so. And I'm I believe, quite qualified to do a number of professional positions, but that has not been working. And, obviously, because of the world situation and many other things, it's dried up quite a bit. And so I was like, I'll apply for these jobs, and immediately, with less than 24 hours, I got rejections from all 3. And so why was I sharing that? Because that has been it's been this whole feeling suspended in space. I've painted a lot around this, suspended in space, held in a glass case or something, and not able to go anywhere, in restriction, in the whole of my life. And so I have done what I have known to do in terms of keep sharing, these seeds for life, and these ideas for life that Spirit gives me, and then also just kind of allow myself to be and to receive from life, from nature. And I do. And that's been lovely. And at the same time, so this experience has always been flying blind in this life. And so what they were showing me was this painting that I had painted, and the idea of jet propulsion, supersonic flight. Get ready, boom, you're gonna pierce through the atmosphere, and they were asking me to learn more about breaking the sound barrier and about jet propulsion, and I was like, okay. And so I just read briefly about those things. And in terms of timelines, so I shared that the 10-day passage, I think it was the 4th through the 12th or 13th, that they showed me. What I'm about to share with you is like the real takeoff point, apparently, is around October 14th, which, as it turns out, is, by no accident, I'm sure, is the day that U.S. Air Force Captain Chuck Yeager officially broke the sound barrier on October 14th, 1947. In the Bell X-1 rocket plane, and he passed Mach 1 following a drop from a B-29 airplane, proving that an aircraft with passengers could break the sound barrier without injury or harm. And so Spirit was showing me how this without injury or harm was important to share, and that whatever, I don't really know what this means. Is something going to occur, or is there just going to be an opening for us to be able to radiantly, rapidly expand and propel forward? And so what I was showing is like, this is the takeoff point into 2021, and they were reminding me that the theme for 2021 and the 12 dimensions and the 7 symbols for the 7 years of 2020 to 2026 that they gave me, they were reminding me that 2020 was all about faith and foundations. 2021 is all about hope. I need to look up what the other, I'll put that in the comments below because I don't recall right now, but there's another theme word for that. So hope. And so what they were showing me is that on October 14th, or right around there was going to be a rapid acceleration possible, like a whole new dimension of accelerated expansion into hope in 2021. Some of this I feel like I need more information, but they wanted me to go ahead and share it, so doing that. So again, October 14th was the day the sound barrier was broken, and in the plane. And so this is very much about breaking through those perceived limitations in terms of what we have seen as possible for humanity, for ourselves individually, and for the collective, because we've always held it within a framework of expectation, or the parameters that we thought were the parameters. And they kept also showing me that this idea of being, the box. Let me see if I can articulate what I'm being shown. The box, so a regular cardboard box, say, opening up and then expanding, and then morphing and changing into more than just a box. So it can change shape and form in terms of the substance, the material of it itself, and then it can fold out into become a mini pointed star with kind of protrusions from that form, that the elasticity or whatever, and then it can invert itself and come into this point of convergence and then radiate out again, and so it's this dynamic process. The second theme that they were showing me was about jet propulsion. And jet propulsion, let me just look at the notes here, because where is that? Okay, this is from a Scientific American article by Awatef Hamed, professor of aerospace engineering and engineering mechanics at the University of Cincinnati, and he's describing what jet propulsion is. So let me just read this. Jet propulsion revolutionized the science of flight by dramatically increasing possible speeds and altitudes, hence enabling space exploration. The term jet propulsion refers to the action produced by a reactor to the ejection of matter. For example, when the matter in a typical rocket, like gunpowder and fireworks, is ignited, the resulting chemical reaction produces heat and gases, which escapes from the rocket and causes it to move forward. So propulsion, propel. That's what's happening. We're being propelled into 2021. And this new era, this new society, this new you, whole new way forward together as a humanity, as a collective. And this is happening through this idea of propulsion. So I thought it was interesting that the propulsion occurs, it's an action that's produced by the ejection of matter. So it's very consistent with what they were showing me with this changing form kind of scenario, not to completely reject the matter, but to release what is no longer, not sure if that's the right way to say it, no longer needed, but there's something about the release there and the propulsion forward. And so, okay, let me finish the article on propulsion. Resulting, so when this happens, the release of the matter results in a chemical reaction that produces the heat and gases which escape from the rocket and cause it to move forward. The oxygen necessary for combustion is carried, like in tanks or something on the rocket itself, and so that the rocket thrust is independent of the atmosphere. Other jet propulsion devices depend on the air inducted into the engine to supply the necessary oxygen. After heat is released by the combustion, the hot gases are accelerated through the engine so that the exit velocity is greater than the airstream velocity at the entrance. There's definitely something else there that I haven't quite gotten to yet, and but it felt important to go ahead and share this. So velocity, I want to touch on this for a moment. It's very interesting to me because in terms of my own situation, like what I've been called back to is like, okay, take everything you've got. This is, you know, what I was guided to. Take everything you've got from like 20 years and package it, make it available. So I'm doing that. And so one of the things I'm going back to is something I did a long time ago called Your Essential Branding. And I worked with clients to help them, you know, identify their brand. And so I was looking at that and found, excuse me, I've got hair flying everywhere. Really need a haircut. I found this little formula that I used to use that is about, let me see, the values, vision, your vision vibrato, so the frequency at which your vision is, plus the values vortex, looking at your core values, equals vibrant velocity with your essential brand. Okay, so like that's, you know, just one example, but they're tying it all together because they were showing me that this vibrant velocity is the speed at which we are going to move into what's next. Now, some of us are like, oh, I'm spinning already, right, from 2020. And so this vibrant velocity is going to be made possible as we, it's the same formula, really. It's quite interesting as we take our vision for what we thought was possible for our lives and our world, and that's taken sort of a nosedive in many ways for many people in 2020, but we take it and we bring it back out. So it's like, they were showing this, I don't know how to describe it, it's like a folding out, and then the flower, the lotus or whatever, like opens up into more petals than you ever even imagined. So it's actually more spectacular than you thought. So you're taking your original vision and you're lifting up a whole level, like it itself is being raised up to a higher frequency, almost like an octave, a higher octave experience of that vision. And so as you allow that vision to not only be alive, but to vibrate at a higher frequency and remain connected, grounded, connected to your core values, and live inside that values vortex. As those two things come together, then we individually and collectively experience this vibrant velocity. And so they were showing me how it's very similar to the concept of jet propulsion. So hopefully that connected for some of you. So I can kind of feel it. And I kind of get it, but I always struggle when they, you know, give me these scientific things like to explain it. So, but also think in terms of music, right? Like going back to that frequency. If you think in terms of octaves and a higher octave, it's the same An octave is, it's about intervals, and it's about one pitch to the next, and it's about I believe that when you go up a higher octave, there's something about the frequency doubles or something like that, and so the idea of harmonics is really important here. And this, if you've watched my other videos, you know that, like, for me, I noted about a year ago or so, a year and a half ago, about this 33 cycle that was coming to a close, which did come to a close in August of this year for me personally, but I think it was also happening, and that's a cycle within the however many tens of thousands, I don't know, that's not my area of expertise, but some of you out there will have heard of that or run across that concept too, in terms of the Mayans and many other those who study such large cycles of time. And so this idea of the harmonic, and I was tying it back to the 1987 harmonic convergence, and I always knew, like, okay, so I'm coming to this close in this cycle for me. So it was so interesting though, because when I was shown that, up until recently, certainly after the close of that for me, which was in August, late August of this year, I really was like, oh, okay, so I'm sure it was important and valuable, but it felt like kind of like, what was the point, right? Like, what was the point? Well, this is what I'm seeing, is that sorry for the distraction, the point of convergence. Yes, the point was that all of it, it's 4:44, all of it, oh, it's October 5th. I just realized this is an important date for me too. Interesting. All of it was an opportunity to experience all of these different internal experiences that relate to multiple timelines, multiple experiences across time and space, and also relate to our life desires, the desire that is alive within us, and to connect with all these different points, all in a spherical realm that allows us to not so much collapse, but converge into this, dive deep into it in whatever way, and then allow it to be expanded, because we're allowing ourselves to be expanded radiantly. And so there's definitely this idea of being propelled forward as a result of allowing for the fullness of that experience. And then the last thing I'll say is related to that fullness idea, because this phrase, of the fullness of time, which has always been one that's been very present for me, but also very perplexing, because, like, oh, when is the fullness of time? Like, that's been my experience of it. But that is very connected as well, because it's more of, so when we think of jet propulsion and this idea of being rapidly propelled forward, it can feel very like, to infinity and beyond, it can feel like a big adventure. But actually what it is, and also it can feel very like forward momentum and action, and it is that, but it's happening because of the full surrender and the fullness of time. And the kind of full circle experience is one that many of us have been drawn to or come to at some point in our journeys, specifically along the path of sacred partnership, but also just in the spiritual journey, in our soul's journey anyway, like just broadly speaking. It's so funny. There's somebody in their car listening to, I don't know, a preacher or something. It's hilarious. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to say was also related to aerodynamics, and let me see, here it was. I might have to skip this because I don't think I can think right now with this the noise right here. So let me just skip that. I will put it in the notes below if it's important. But this is what it's all about, is that somehow these things that we have perceived to be limitations on our own journey, on our own experience, and even times when we've just kind of chalked it up to, okay, it's just a lost cause, whatever, like not any one specific thing, but just in general in our lives. It could pertain to many things, but we have, it's been an issue of perception, and that our perceived limits of the experience, the fullness of our experience individually in a variety of ways, and also as one people, as to experiencing humanity as the one light, the one life, the one love, and as in the fullness of time, coming into that full experience. It's like we're throwing off those shackles, but not, societally we are throwing off the shackles, but what is allowing for all of this is actually the willingness to simply be present to the unfolding of all that is happening and occurring, and to realize that with our real eyes, to realize that we are have been always participants in this beautiful, amazing, mind-blowing adventure that we call life. So I may leave it there for now. I do have a little bit more to share, but it's a little challenging at the moment. So I will come back. Well, let me just tack on one little idea there in case I'm not able to come back quickly. So circling back to our own journey in terms of our spiritual path, in terms, which, everything's spiritual, right? Like in terms of our own life path, in terms of things that we each individually hold deeply and hold sacred, that there's a real opportunity now to, again, break through those invisible barriers. So think of in terms of the sound barrier, or in terms of, I was given the phrase sudden sight, second sight and sudden sight, and again, this kind of supersonic, like, it was really kind of funny the way it was shown to me, but relating it back to what I was just saying, that all of these things that have felt like we're lost along the way, or were misconnections, disconnections, like it just didn't work. Like in my own life's work, I don't know. It just hasn't connected for 20 years, and it really makes very little sense. But somehow there has been all along with all of it, this gathering of life force, this gathering of the potentialities, the gathering in of the various threads, the rebalancing of the various lifetimes. All of it has been working toward, and I don't even want to say working is not the right word, all of it has been gathering up to us, and then raising us, elevating us to the full experience of who we are individually and collectively. And so there is a sudden expansion of that, and a propelling of us individually and collectively into the hope and the flowering and flourishing of who we are, and remembering that we are a dynamic and sustainable system in and of ourselves individually. And that's who we are. It's how, it's what the soul is. And as we know ourselves as whole and complete, we are able to expand radiantly from within.